Hi, fighters. So, why do I say this? Why do I say don't follow the promoter? This is not a clickbait. I'm serious about this. I'm gonna take Cheesegirl for example, just because he's my favorite YouTuber in the field. His quality of videos are through the roof. Like, I don't understand how he can even afford to invest that much money into making a simple video. It's very impressive to me. And I do follow his stuff, of course. I follow the Rise of Kingdoms channel as well, the official one. But the goals they present there are unrealistic for someone who has a job, family, kids, you name it, responsibilities. If you play all day, of course, as a free-to-play, you can achieve many things. I understand that. But we are trying to have fun while not overcommitting our life into a game. So when I say don't listen to them, I mean you're gonna set up an unrealistic goal and then think you're doing bad. But that's not the case. My way, my guide, is trying to push on your skill rather than just time investment. You have to know what you're doing and compensate for the difference in money, in time you can invest, and such. So I'll give an example. They would pair in testings, many YouTube channels do that. They would take two marches and they go head to head against each other. But in the game, when does it really happen? Never. Maybe once in a KVK, you're gonna face someone head to head. Otherwise, most of the time, you are fighting on the field, there's many marches around, you have to kind of make decisions. So what they are testing is good for the commanders, one-to-one, but it's not good overall. So, for example, they would always say Nevsky is better than Joan. However, he only hits one person, one target, while Joan keeps hitting over and over several targets, 3 targets at a time if you're lucky. And she also generates way faster rage, so she hits more times. But it doesn't show when you play one against one. It only shows when you maneuver her on the field, which is called micro. You micro manage the march, and that way you compensate for Joan being less strong than Nevsky. However, you do benefit from her other skills, but that takes a player to do, not just watching them fight against each other and not do anything about it. I would never just fight head to head for no reason. That makes no sense. I'm just losing troops. I need to achieve a goal, not just fight. So when they tell you what pairings they do to test one against one, this is all good and well for reference. This does not represent your skill as a player. There is no skill here. You just send them off and see what happens. That's when I would argue about defense and attack. They all would tell you defense is better than attack. This is simply not true. This is irresponsibly not true. Because attack benefits a certain commander, and defense would benefit a certain commander. If it's Martel, of course defense would be better and preferable, because Martel has no active skill that hits a lot of damage, so attack for him may be not as relevant. You actually want him to absorb. He would be your tanky march, so he would absorb from many directions. Then you want defense against all of those directions, because he's attacking per se only one target. On the other hand, you using Guan CP, you want the most attack you can have, as much as you can have, and you don't need defense at all. You're gonna hit someone as hard as you can and move away. You're not gonna stay there and absorb. This is not their purpose. Then you're using them wrong. And that's where my rant is over. I hope you understand my point here. It depends on how you play, it depends on who you pair it with, and it depends on how well you micro. So don't be assuming that always defense is better. Now, those two aside, health is definitely better. It's always better to have health than anything other, because health is the overall ability of the commander. So of course you want to have health. Damage is better than attack and better than defense. Damage reduction is also better. Obviously, because damage is calculated post attack and defense, and that's why they are better. 1% post attack defense is higher than 1 attack or 1 defense, or maybe in some cases, if it's all damage, maybe better than both together. 1% defense, 1% attack is not better than 1% all damage caused. So this is just like to point out where there should be a gap between how they tell you to play and how you actually play. I would argue that your flavor also has to come in play. Some players prefer the defensive method, and it's not wrong. I don't think there's any wrongdoing in being very defensive. This is a good strategy for some players. I am on the offensive as a character. I like to be aggressor just because I come from the StarCraft field from before, and in StarCraft I would play Zerg, which has to be the offensive. If Zerg is defensive, they lose. So I got used to that mentality of being on the offensive and always trying and control the field, and it's not always better. It's just my character. I cannot avoid it. I cannot change myself that fast. Also, I have to take care of my enjoyment, which is what I like, is to be on the offensive. I know many players who play defensive better than I play offensive. And that means that if I attack them, I would probably lose on the trade. So keep that in mind. You have to choose your flavor. Another thing I would mention, do not, and I mean it, do not have legendary commanders as the main commander. And why do I say that? It is very hard to get them to 60 at the beginning. Down the line, you make your own decisions. Over there, you won't need my help anymore, which is what I'm trying to achieve here. But until then, your main commander should be an epic commander, because it's easier to get them up. The tree is the same, so you benefit more for the same experience you invest. Down the line, when you have the option to pair 2 legendaries in all your marches, by all means go nuts. You would pick and choose your own stuff. Until then, you cannot afford to have a legendary commander as main. Keep them as secondary, the skills stack, so you have no problem there. That being said, let's dive into our first chapter in the guide.